Hello and welcome to Europa Universalis 4, and welcome to Beginning Anew. This will be an ongoing series where I analyze countries and discuss some tactics and strategies that you can use to become a world power and dominate the international stage. I'm always happy to receive more requests as to which country I should review next, but for now, let us begin anew. Today's nation, Austria. Austria is the starting up as the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and they actually start as a duchy, even though they do have the king Emperor Friedrich III. Indeed, it is one of the most confusing moments of the world, and the HRE itself is a completely different game. Well, it's a game changer, you could say, especially for the emperor himself. Starting off, Austria borders a multitude of nations, Hungary, Venice, Switzerland, Bavaria and Bohemia being the majors, with Salzburg, Augsburg, Memmingen and Ravensburg being the minors. You could technically count Ferrara and Urbino as other neighbors if you count the sea tile, but that is usually not what one could concern themselves with. Austria started Catholic and a Western nation. They're very well known, historically they're well known for defending Europe against the Ottomans. We have a king or emperor, 251, relatively alright, but diplomacy is definitely going to be one of your more important stats in this game. However, it shouldn't be that big a deal. The emperor is quite old, however he does not have a legal heir, which could get dicey. Starting additions are moral of armies plus 10% and better relations plus 30%. The better relations definitely help in the HRE. The moral of armies, always a good thing to see. Imperial ambitions, imperial authority plus 10%, the diplomatic annexation cost of negative 15%. Imperial authority, definitely something good if you're going to go play the HRE game, and the diplomatic annexation definitely encourages certain missions that we will discuss later. Military frontier, fort maintenance negative 10%, and national garrison growth plus 15%. Definitely something good if you want to start building a lot of forts, as the new game has definitely encouraged that. Fugger banking, yearly inflation reduction plus 0.105. Of course, that means that it's a negative on your yearly inflation, not a positive as it shows, but the interest per annum is also quite good if you decide to take loans. Habsburg dominance plus 2 diplomatic reputation, definitely a great addition to your nation. Makes integrating vassals very quick, and even better, it makes allies even more likely. We have missionary strength plus 2%, definitely good once the Protestant Reformation happens, or if you decide to expand into lands that are not your religion. You are bordering some Orthodox provinces reasonably close by, and the Sunni are also bordering you in a pseudo sense, because Ottomans usually expand north. We have lastly Austrian court, diplomatic relations plus 1. Let's see, have one more ally or relation in the HRE or outside. And Hofkriegsrat. Hofkriegsrat, essentially the Minister for War, yes. Discipline plus 3%, a minor increase compared to what you could get, but reinforced speed plus 30%, definitely a good start. Austrian ideas of chance of a new heir, plus 50%, definitely going to make it hard for you not to have an heir in your game. The history of Austria is very much one of dynastic dominance. We've already discussed how in the Spain, Austria later takes over, and Castile, and then Spain turns to a Habsburg dynasty, making Austria essentially in control of Spain, the Netherlands, Austria proper, Bohemia, Hungary, parts of Poland, parts of Bosnia and Serbia, and even parts of Italy, and of course all Spanish holdings in the New World, making the Habsburgs one of the greatest empires in the world. Skipping through some time, we go perhaps to a 30 Years' War, This is of course where we have a Protestant Reformation coming through, not one of Austria's greatest moments, as you can already see. However, if we go back just a little bit, War of the League of Cambrai, Austria has lost the Netherlands already. Hungary is, however, a union under Bohemia, interestingly enough, and later on Austria returns and manages to take back that union over both Bohemia and the prior almost eaten Hungarians. Austria has always been the central powerhouse of Europe, taking the position of Europe's defender multiple times in history, mostly against the Ottomans and the Eastern powers, Russia. Spain, of course, is later no longer under Habsburg influence, but for a very long time they were. This kind of dynastic or diplomatic dominance might be something people would want to go for in their playthroughs. However, you can also play a very aggressive game as Austria, if you so desire. Now, let's have a look at some tactics in-game. 2 forts, relatively minor, but an army of 36,000. And as you will note, their force limit is the highest in Europe at this time. Followed closely, well, I say closely, but more so, followed in a relatively orderly fashion by England, France, the Ottomans, the Mamelukes, and Lithuania, who approximately all have the same force limit. Austria is very much a choice of diplomatic or aggressive expansion. The HRE game is definitely one that's hard to play, and I will make a separate episode dedicated to it itself. However, for many patches that does change from patch to patch. The general idea, though, is to control the electors, become elected, and keep imperial authority high, which allows you to do reforms and even eventually reform the empire. Early in game there is an event that is called the Shadow Kingdoms, which causes all Italian kingdoms in Italy to leave the empire. That includes, of course, Savoy, Milan, Manuta, Ferrara, Lucca, Florence, Siena, and Genoa. These were all split away from the empire, unless the current emperor, or any emperor, manages to add Friuli, Treviso, Verona, Romagna, Urbino, Umbria, and Roma to the HRE in a short while, usually before 1500. Doing this will stop this event from firing and keeping these nations in the empire. It's definitely something hard to do. After all, these are all extremely high base tax provinces, and the aggressive expansion could be massive. Of course, you do not have to own these provinces for the achievement, you simply have to add them to the empire. In other words, you simply have to conquer them, add them to the empire, and then return them if you so wish. Carrying on, we have some potential allies. Poland is sometimes an ally. In this game they have decided to rival us. France, also definitely a potential ally. England, if you so desire. Burgundy, sometimes as well. Castile, Aragon. The Ottomans, of course, not, but as you can see already, there are more than enough nations that would love to ally you, and if you so desire, you can definitely do so. Another valid tactic is to go for the Burgundian succession crisis, in which it's usually best to ally France and Austria, make Burgundy a rival and attack them as soon as possible. Then you essentially just take over most of their land and wait a few years. Usually in that time the Burgundian king dies and the event fires. This can only be done before 1500 as well, so it should be something you aim to do early. Other missions that are quite important to note are forcing the Bohemian to accept Austrian dominance, which is a mission that occurs in the beginning of the game approaching about halfway through the 1500s, which allows you to force Bohemia into a personal union under Austria. Of course, this means you have to fight them and potentially get some pretty massive aggressive expansion. The same can be done for Hungary, although this mission is called the Hungarian Decline, and would most definitely be something to look into as well. Of course, it's very much important to note that the aggressive expansion of doing this would be extremely bad. However, the land you gain is most definitely worth it, especially in the long term. This being, of course, the way Austria looked historically. If, of course, you decide to go for this expansionary route, you will have a lot of land that is not part of the HRE, which you can later add for more imperial authority, of course, after you core it. However, of course, if you decide to go for the personal union route, you simply have to integrate it and the cores will be created for you. By doing so, of course, this is where this helps extremely well, because the diplomatic annexation cost goes to negative 15%, and if you decide to pair that up with influence ideas, which allows you to reduce it by another 25%, you will essentially be getting the land almost for half the price. As a result, some of the better ideas to go for are diplomatic, influence, humanist, religious, offensive, and quantity. These will most definitely help you along the way. However, it is definitely your choice what you go for, and it depends especially on how the game goes. There is a very good reason to perhaps aggressively expand again to add provinces to the empire. However, at the same time, it is also very much possible for you to be a very peaceful emperor and only go and defend the empire when needed and keep control and gain authority by doing it over time and keeping the empire at peace. There are actually only two achievements that are specifically said that Austria has to do by themselves. The first is the pen is mightier than the sword, which means which requires you to have 3 personal unions at the same time. Bohemia and Hungary would be the first 2, and then there's of course the challenge of finding a third, because you will not get a third one as a mission. The second one actually is not for Austria, but it is most easily done by Austria. It is called a Kaiser not just in name, which of course is a play on how the rest of Europe described the HRE emperor as the emperor without an actual empire. But all it requires you to do is to form the HRE, and as said, that is easiest done as Austria. Now, for a little cheese, I'm going to simply make things happen. HRE, Imperial Authority. This is not how you get the achievement, but it is a very much fun thing to do. I seem to have misspelled something. Spelling is always the worst. Unless, of course, they changed this, that you can no longer... of course. There we go. Now then, I think it is a good idea for us to... Oh well, this will take too long then. Usually you would be able to do it right away, but I suppose they do it now only at the tick of a month. Perhaps I'll come back in just a second. Alas, it seems I will not get back to you. Austria decided to be slightly problematic after I had annexed these 2 nations, making overextension just a small bit of an issue. Anyhow, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Hope you have some ideas for other nations I could review. And yeah, Austria is of course one of the easier nations, same with Spain, and the nations I have reviewed so far. After all, I don't know what exactly you want to see, but I'm sure I can get stuff for you.